Do you believe in an afterlife? The possibility of an afterlife. Now, that's a different question. I don't believe in an afterlife. Um, you can believe in the possibility of anything, but I've had discussions about absolutes, and at an absolute level, both sides, theists and theists, don't know things. So we don't make absolute claims here. Certainly not if we're being careful with our language. So, possibility of an afterlife. I don't see any reason to believe in a possibility, even a possibility of it. Everything we know about chemistry and physics indicates that everything alive has a limited time of existence. We come together as um, an activation of our DNA, right? For life that originates from sexual behavior, meaning, you know, a sperm and an egg, versus just something that like an amoeba that just kind of splits itself. Um, that's when the that's when the cells are triggered to essentially start to unravel the recipe for whatever comes to be a person or an animal. Uh, and there seems to be a limit to, well, seems to be, there is a limit to the length of time this pattern that becomes us, that is us actually, will sustain itself. The the bottom line, of course, is to keep the species alive by reproducing into another generation. So, to a great degree, once you've reproduced into that next generation, your main biological purpose is done, right? Because the perpetuation comes not of the person, but of the genes. And this is, Richard Dawkins points this out very well in The Selfish Gene. If you ever had a chance to read his book, please do, because there's a lot in there that's important to understand. So after a while, we start to, for lack of a better word, decay, especially this age. Um, and obviously, every species is going to be different, right? Some things just live a certain amount of time. There are a few microorganisms that are thought to possibly be immune to wearing itself out. Something like the tardigrade, or I don't know, however many others there are. Um, but we all degrade over time. There's been studies of telomeres, which is the markers at the end of the DNA, and every time they reproduce, they get one less little marker at the end. It's kind of like a 9 lives things. I think there's 6 or something at the end of a DNA sequence. So you've got some ability to repair, I guess, and retain. But you know, for humans, the lifespan appears to be somewhere around 120 years. It'll be interesting down the road. Maybe you guys will see it. I'll never find out, but to see what the human lifespan is, if you can essentially prevent all disease. But signs right now seem to be showing that it's about 120 years. Everything else we know that's organic eventually comes to an end. Plants, um, small mammals, insects, flies with 24-hour lifespans. So I see no reason to believe in an afterlife. The the reason people do would be desirability. Nobody wants to have their turn come to an end, but it does. I mean, I think of this as analogous to like going on a ride at Disneyland, or even having a day at Disneyland. It's like well, let's do the ride. Let's do the roller coaster, because roller coasters have ups and downs, right? So you have this life. There are ups and downs. There are good times and bad times. There are different chapters in your life. There's different sections in this ride, and eventually the ride's over, and got to get off. You know, I think Christopher Hitchens. I think it was Hitchens had a quote. You know, people ask what happens after you, or after you die, and it's just like, well, lots of things happen. They just don't involve you. So we come to an end. We'll have discussions on this. With this is a panel type of thing to talk about. You don't want to hear about this just from one person rambling on. So, but no, I don't see the possibility of an afterlife. I think it's crucially important, however, that we get comfortable with knowing that, because it is an inevitability that we cannot avoid. And when we belong to groups that reinforce this idea that there is something beyond this, it completely messes up our perspective and our priorities. And that's my biggest concern. It reduces the value of the life we live, the life we have, and I think it reduces the value of it reduces the morality of our behavior in terms of how we treat others. If we are quite comfortable and accepting of the idea that we are only here for so long, of course we have to realize that so is everybody else. So treat others as you would like to be treated, right? So I think it would be a more compassionate society if we were more cognizant of that. So I do look at this as a bit of a, I use the word maturity. I don't really mean it necessarily on an individual level maturity, although there's some degree of that, but I look at it as maturity at a cultural level. So a mature culture will be able to is one that has reached a point of accepting this, and they will develop their institutions around that. And it may be something as simple as um, medical care, um, uh, uh, funding for the elderly, etc., things like that. So, okay, let's see. That's enough of that one. I'm just going to just go into the middle of the next page. Do you believe in the possibility of supernatural events? That word possibility again. I do not. Oh, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Sorry. Bear with me for 1 second. I'm new on this software and I didn't think this through. I'm going to type this in over here and put it on screen. Do you believe? I should have done this before. Sorry. Next time I'll do it. Of supernatural. So that, when you new people are scrolling by and coming up here, you'll know what I'm talking about. In case my rambling is just not making it obvious. Possibility of supernatural events. Again, I'm going to say no. In terms of supernatural events, and I guess I will have to split this into possibility again. I'll tell you this: the set of questions came from ChatGPT. This is the lazy way of grabbing questions. I typically will grab them from Facebook because I like the variety of how people ask their questions. But so we're probably going to see this possibility word a few times. So supernatural events. It seems to me um, that supernatural events are an extremely unlikely thing to occur. That's not to say that they can't happen. Okay, but number one, they seem incredibly unlikely because we just don't see them happening around us, right? People don't grow limbs after they've been delimbed, um, and they don't come back after their life has ended. And we have, despite the fact that we have books that make claims to such things existing, these there's no way of connecting them to any evidence besides a claim, and we know how bad claims are. We know the game of telephone, how books rewritten and retranslated and rescribed over time can be modified and changed erroneously or intentionally. I see no reason to believe in such things. However, let's think this through and be honest here. First off, what is supernatural versus natural? I'm going to call natural just the physical world, right? The universe as we know based on the laws of physics in our universe. And anything beyond or outside that, we'll call it supernatural. Now I'm excluding multiverses, okay, for this explanation. So, because if something exists like in a second universe that does or does not intersect with us, that's also a natural thing, right? We can just broaden the definition of nature. But supernatural typically implies another mind of some sort. Not always, not always. It could just be like a supernatural realm. But like I say, I'm going to leave out the multiverse for this one. So let's think about, can supernatural realms exist? That's question one. And two is, do they interact with our standard physical universe? So, and I guess the third part would be more obviously, are we justified in believing in something that we don't have access to, or we may not have access to? So the first question: do supernatural realms exist? Okay, let's just say that either they do or they don't. I'll call that a bit of a dichotomy. Now that's very simplistic. I am very wary of dichotomies, so forgive me for that. Because if a supernatural realm exists, why can't a million supernatural realms exist? So leave it open for whatever. But let's just say, compared to ours, is there a natural universe? Yes, we're here. We have a reality. We're all in it. And is there someplace else that does not abide by our laws of physics? Okay. Maybe, maybe not. Certainly not is a very valid possibility. Um, if we have no indication of it, then not is a strong possibility. If it exists and we have no access to it, in terms of there is no crossing over of anything from that realm to ours, again, we have no reason to believe it's there. Or said another way, we have insufficient reason to believe it to be most likely true. All right. So that's two of them. If there's a supernatural realm and it can cross into our realm, like, ghosts live over there kind of thing, and they can move things in ours, like on the ghost television shows. I'm speaking of the British comedy and then the American remake of it. By the way, the British one is much better. Watch that one. That would be evidence for it. Now, if a whatever something moves a lamp in your room and you have no justification for it, but you just see it move and you know you're awake, that kind of a thing. Now you've got evidence. If you watch these paranormal shows, you'll see what is supposedly evidence, but it's always very trivial. It's a noise, or it's what we thought was a pattern of, that sounds like maybe somebody said the word fish or something in there. And oh my gosh, the owner who used to live here used to love fishing. Too much rationalization there. So, and when these things are tested, there's when they're tested properly with controls and stuff, they just don't show to be anything. So, if a supernatural exists and it could completely put its hand into our universe and move stuff around and we could talk to them and things, well, that would be another thing, right? And seances would be very interesting things. What we know is that seances and such things that claim to have, moving tables and spirits talking, it is a major source of fraud, and it has been throughout history. So again, you have insufficient evidence. We do have unexplained events. There are tons of those, but they're all anecdotal and non-reproducible, and that's a problem. So, until we can reproduce and demonstrate and um, to make it a believable thing it's just not valid to believe that it's probably a thing. All right. I can see this is going to be a fairly short thing because I'm not going to do this for the whole time. Not that I mind, but I don't think it's that interesting. Okay. I'll do one more. What is your view on the soul? Again, I don't see a reason to believe in a soul. The idea of a soul, well, let's see. The idea of a mind and a body being two different things versus one thing is something that goes all the way back to the earliest philosophy. And at that time, of course, they believed in souls because I don't know if it comes out of the religion, the origin of religions, or if it's just something that has come to be. We certainly never knew what consciousness was, and we still don't, frankly. Uh, if you look at the best science we have on what minds are, what consciousness is, it's quite clear that we're still sort of grasping at straws. We don't have a significant enough explanation. We do have evidence in the sense that if you have a brain and you disable it in various ways, then the function gets lost, right? People can lose language, they can lose their sense of where their body is. Um, and this comes from not only experiments, neurological experiments, but of course through accident patients and some of the most famous ones like Phineas Gage, who had a personality change after a brain injury. But there never has been in all of human thinking, let's call it, since the 1000 BC, more than philosophical, which is to say mind thought on this concept, that there's a reason to believe in the soul, especially if you separate that from the religious concepts, being that the religious concepts just basically assert it. So, no, and I don't really see a need for it. I mean, what is the soul supposed to be? It's like floating out there outside this universe until you're born, and it just gets plopped in. It just seems like a very fanciful um, ancient idea from an ignorant time. So be the person you know yourself to be. Do the best you can, and try to be aware that others are sharing your world. So be nice to them. All right. All right. I think that's all I'm going to do. This really is again a bit of a test too for the bandwidth. I'm going to. Wow, I didn't even change the question there. Gonna need some practice here. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up, and then I think I should probably just start gathering guests because this is the short term problem with YouTube. I do TikTok lives, so catch me over there. That's a nice way to get people to talk to. That's one nice thing about TikTok. Those I do record those, and those get pulled over and posted on YouTube also. So subscribe to me on YouTube and join me on TikTok, of course. Follow me there. But if you don't catch the lives, if you just don't have that time of day, I'm usually around 7 o'clock every other day in the evening, Pacific Coast time. But if you can't catch those or you're not around, then you can come to YouTube, and I'll be putting more of them, more and more of them, especially the most interesting ones here on YouTube. So you can come and watch them over here. So the audience will grow in time. So it will happen. And I've got one. Oh, I have a viewer. Oof. Just in case, if you're interested in, I'll just throw this really back up real quick. These are my subjects. I'm about to wrap up, but if you want to come talk to me about this, feel free. The the way to do it is to look in the comments and pull the link that's in there, and then that'll let you in. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up. But thanks for swinging by, and it's going to take some time to grow the audience here. So, oh, he took off. Okay, that's as expected. So I'm going to jump myself over to TikTok for now, and in time the audience will grow here, and then I'll do a little bit of both. Okay. So take care of yourself. Be kind to everybody. Be kind to each other. Talk to you another time. Bye.